On this episode of Exactly How, we're going to show you how to buy and sell properties with lease options, how to control properties that you don't actually own so you get all of the upside and none of the downside, and some very new marketing techniques that are going to allow you to run circles around your competition on this episode of Exactly How.
You're listening to the Exactly How podcast, where you'll hear the underground, closely guarded wealth-building secrets of successful people around the globe. Discover exactly how to improve your mental, physical, and financial health. Feel better, make more money, live, give, and prosper in today's exciting, fast-paced world filled with opportunity for those who know exactly how.
Welcome to the Connected Investors Podcast, Exactly How. During this episode, you'll discover exactly how to sell properties using lease options. This is very near and dear to my heart because it's how I started investing in real estate. For those of you who are new, my name is Ross Hamilton, today's host and CEO of ConnectedInvestors.com. Today we have the privilege to learn from a guy who has had success with all sorts of virtual aspects of real estate investing. He's been able to be very successful while traveling around the world. Prior to his career in real estate, he was a civil engineer who built power plants. And all that changed when he figured out that you could do real estate virtually without ever seeing the houses. After that, he was hooked and left his high-paying job to get into real estate full-time. I would describe our guest as a kind of a marketing and technology expert, which is, people that I love to be around. His name is Joe McCall, and today he's going to explain exactly how to sell properties through lease options. Joe, thank you so very much for taking the time to speak with me and all of our members.
Hey, Ross. It's an honor to be on your show. Thanks for having me, man. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I've been really excited about having you on for a while now. And I noticed behind you, you have tons of books and courses. It looks like you're a education connoisseur as well.
I got a bunch more books over there, but I've also, this is only like 10% of them. I love books, and I wish my office looked as cool as yours. I would rather, those of you that don't know Ross, when he was coming here to get on, the camera was already on, and he was on his skateboard, coming on his skateboard to get here.
This floor is slick. Look at that. It's like ice.
That's awesome.
The skateboards help. It's like it's like how traffic gets moved around here. For those of you who are listening to this in the podcast, go over to our YouTube so you can see some of the visual aspects of things we're talking about here. Plus, we show you some cool stuff. We demo some software throughout this presentation. So you're definitely going to want to check out to go to the Connected Investors YouTube channel. So before we dive into exactly how to sell properties through lease options and all of the benefits of that, Joe, you contribute a lot of your success to massive implementation. Right? Why do you think this has played such a big role in your success?
Early on, one of my coaches, I heard him telling a story, and he said they went and they looked at this university did this study, and they looked at these large corporations, and they compared those people in the sales departments that were making under 30 grand a year, and they compared them with those guys and ladies that were making over $300,000 a year. And they looked at what the difference was. Why were these people making under 30 and these people making 300,000 or more in the same companies, right? And they found that it wasn't their sex, it wasn't their gender, whatever. It wasn't their age, it wasn't their good looks. It wasn't the fact that they went to college or university. It was one thing. It was the speed of implementation. And that always struck with me because these people, they were successful because they were quick to follow up with new prospects. When they told that prospect that they would send them a proposal, they were quick to send it. When they learned something new, they were quick to implement it. And when they came into work, they started working right away. They didn't fart around at the cooler and drinking coffee. They were just always really, really quick to implement. And I realized, you can't build a business sitting on the fence, right? You can't drive a parked car. And if I wanted to be successful in business, I had to start implementing. And this kind of didn't dawn on me and switch in my head immediately. For about 3 years, Ross, I was the professional student, okay? I would buy course after course after course and go to boot camp and workshops and sign up for coaching. But I never did anything that they told me to do. I just overanalyzed everything. And I thought I was making progress by trying to figure, and this is the engineer in me, I was trying to figure out steps 7 and 8 before doing steps 1 and 2. And it wasn't until I started implementing just steps 1 and 2 without worrying about all the details yet that I finally started doing deals. And so I'm big on this. I harp on this all the time with my podcast and my students and stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I heard a quote the other day. I've heard said a million times, but it meant something different to me. It's now or never. You hear the quote, now or never. And the reason, what gave that quote life for me is you can only ever do something now. Right? Mm-hmm. So you can never do something tomorrow. You can only do something now. So it's either now or never. So when I hear now or never now, I'm like, let's get this done. Hey, when do you want to shoot this? Let's shoot it now. Joe, when do you want to do a podcast? How about right now? Yeah, so it's, it's important to understand where you're going so you can make the right decisions. You know what to say yes to and what to say no to. But like you said, Joe, when you say yes to something, knock it out of the park. That's great.
Just get it done. Just get it done. And here's the cool thing too. Like, you don't have to do it yourself either, right? You can get, with technology today, you can get systems and tools and software to do things for you. You can get virtual assistants to do things for you. Sometimes it's best not to ask how, but to ask who. Like, not how can I do all of this stuff, but who can I get to do it for me? And it's forcing yourself to focus on your high revenue generating activities, right? Getting into your CRM and updating it with your notes, that's $5 an hour activity, right? What you should be doing is, after you talk to a seller, send a voice memo to your VA and have your VA update the CRM with the leads. Have your VA run the comps and send the offers and do the follow-up and all that. You need to be focused on your highest and best use of your revenue, your time, which is making offers. Like, that's it. Talking to sellers and making offers. Nothing else matters.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, great. I'm excited to really dive deep into a lot of this stuff with you. For everyone who's new to the Exactly How podcast, what makes this very unique is every show comes with a detailed action plan. We pull the steps out of the show and create a blueprint on how to implement exactly what we're covering today. So if you're driving in your car, you don't have to worry about taking notes. All you have to do is visit exactlyhow.com to get the show notes, the key takeaways, resources mentioned on the call. Joe has some great free gifts he said he was going to give everyone. So visit exactlyhow.com. In addition, you'll be entered into a drawing that we do on every show to win access to the pre-MLS. This is how anyone can find properties that are not yet listed, that can be purchased for deep discounts. It's a $3,000 software, and we're going to give it to someone today for free in just a few moments. So if you're watching this live on YouTube or Facebook or something like that, go to exactlyhow.com, throw your name into the hat. We're going to go ahead and announce the winner here shortly. So Joe, we're jumping right in here. For those that are new to this topic, can you explain exactly what a lease option is?
Yeah, it's super simple. It's where you lease a property with the option to buy it in the future. That's it. And you lease it with an option to buy it in the future at a predetermined price for usually a couple, 3 years, maybe 4 or 5 years. And during that time, if you're doing this as an investment property, you're the tenant buyer of that deal, and you stay in the middle of that. You can flip the lease option at the beginning and just make an assignment fee and be done and out of the deal. That's a quick nickel strategy. Or you can do the slow dime strategy, where you stay in the middle and you get the cash flow and the equity spread at the end. So it's just a way, I think it was Rockefeller that said their secret to wealth is to own nothing and control everything. So with lease options, in my opinion, I've done all kinds of deals before. We've talked before about subject twos and owner financing. I love lease options the best because they allow you to control property without owning it. And when you don't own property, it removes a lot of the risk that's involved with actually owning real estate. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And as we're going through this topic on the show, you can buy with lease options and you can sell with lease options, and things are structured slightly different on both sides of that to make sure that you're in as much control as possible. So Joe, let's just jump right into it. What are the main steps for this show? We're going to talk about selling with lease options. What are the main steps for selling with lease options? So
just to clarify, let's say you own a rental property that you bought and you want to sell it as a lease option and get some tenant buyers in there. Well, the first thing you're going to have to do is advertise and market the property. Okay. Then you're going to get applications. You're going to review them. And then you approve somebody and you put them in the house. There's similar 3 steps in buying lease options. So you can buy on lease options, sell on lease options, and there's even ways you can do both, right?
Let's run through selling on lease options real quick, and then we'll circle back to buying on lease options.
Okay, cool.
So selling on lease options, just go ahead and just quickly take us through those steps.
Yeah, it's easy. And here's the cool thing. When you sell on a lease option, there's a huge demand for these homes. So if you can't find a good tenant buyer in 3 to 4 weeks, something is really, really wrong. It's either overpriced or you're not marketing it to the right people. Okay. So when you're advertising a property, you got to make sure that you're in the good neighborhoods where people want to live, not the low end, not the really high end expensive homes. You want to stay in that sweet spot in the median price range. So in the Midwest, where I am in St. Louis, that's going to be like $100,000 to $250,000 in that price range, right? So there's when I'm advertising a property, I like to put it on my website. First of all, you get pictures, get a video if you can, and I hire someone to do that for me. Get pictures, put it on my website. The CRM that I use, that'll give you phone numbers. And so I like to record, and I get a new phone number for each property. It's $4 a month. I record an outbound message, and I just explain real briefly what the property is, what it's like. And I give them a link to schedule to get some more information and go look at some pictures. So when they call, their phone number is automatically added into my CRM. They get added to my buyers list, and I can have my VA text them back saying, hey, do you have any questions about the property? So anyway, you get it on your website, you advertise the property as a rent to own or as a lease option. And I typically advertise it as, forget the banks, 3% moves you in. That's it, right? Rent to own, and get a lot of calls with that. So there's several things that you got to do to advertise.
That's a great tip right there, by the way. Forget the banks, 3% moves you in. That's a great takeaway.
Yeah. So there's a couple things that work best for me when I'm finding tenant buyers and I'm selling a house on a lease option. Number one are signs. Got to put a sign in the yard. If you own the house, put 10 signs in the yard. You want to get some calls, put as many signs as you can.
I used to actually put a banner on the house.
Yeah.
When I was doing a lot of lease options. It was just rent to own, as big as it was a billboard.
It works.
It does.
People don't think that it does, but it does. So like if you don't want to buy a banner, fine, just put like 10 bandit signs in the yard. I used to buy a 30-inch by 30-inch. Was that right? It was almost 3 feet by 3 feet square sign. It was a big sign. I'd put it in the yard. And then on the weekends, you put like 10, 20 bandit signs out in the neighborhood. Signs work the best. I don't care if they're illegal. What's the worst that can happen? They fine you a little bit, maybe, I don't know. But put them out there on the weekends, do the signs. Second thing is Facebook Marketplace. Facebook Marketplace has pretty much overtaken Craigslist, right? Like that's the best place to go. So get it on Facebook Marketplace. I like to do my rent-to-own homes as rentals, not as for sale by owners. I do them as rentals. Third thing is get it on Zillow if you can. Sometimes it's a little tricky, but get it on Zillow, and I put it in the for rent section. And then get it on Craigslist is the fourth thing. Put it in I like to create 2 or 3 different Craigslist for rent ads, and then maybe one for sale by owner ad. And I just cycle through those ads right there. And if you do those 3 or 4 things, signs, Facebook Marketplace, get it on Zillow if you can, get it on Craigslist. And if you've not gotten a good buyer in 3 to 4 weeks, then it's probably overpriced, and you need to just lower the rent $100, and you'll get these things filled really quickly.
Great. So you're able to, now you have all these tenants reaching out to you. How do you screen them? Because I'd imagine you can get flooded with calls.
That's good. So I work with 2 different companies that do this nationwide. Now here's something really, really important to understand. When I do lease options, I always try to set up the tenant buyers to win. I want the seller to win. I want me to win. And I want the tenant buyer to win. What does that mean? Well, it means that I'm only going to put somebody in my house who has a realistic chance of getting a mortgage in 1 or 2 years, okay? Which means like if they have a $200,000 judgment for unpaid child support and alimony, I'm not going to let that guy in the house because, there's no chance he's going to be able to pay that off in a year. I don't care how much money he has. There's a lot of gurus out there that teach on lease options. They say, doesn't matter if they got a big enough down payment, I'll put them in the house. I hope they don't buy the house because then I can get somebody else in there and get another option deposit fee from them. That's one big reason why lease options has kind of gotten a bad rap sometimes, because investors are putting these tenant buyers into homes that they know they have no realistic chance of getting a mortgage in 1 to 2 years. You might even go and say, I only want to work with a tenant buyer who's got a realistic chance to get a mortgage in 6 to 12 months. So the other thing along that lines too is I don't like doing lease options on the really low end homes. I was just looking today in the news. And in Dallas, there's in the local news, there's a story about some investor that's getting in trouble, taking advantage of really poor people doing rent to owns in mobile home parks, right? And I don't know what she was doing or what the story is, but I see this over and over and again. If you want to get in the news, all right, then do rent to own on cheap, low-end rental properties.
Well, people that can never get qualified and they're giving you their last $2,000 to get in.
Forget it. And here's the thing, even if they could get their credit fixed, do you think they're going to want to buy that $50,000 rental property in the hood? No. And there's no banks that would lend to them anyway. They're going to want to buy homes in the nicer areas, the blue collar neighborhoods where there's good school districts and stuff like that. So unless you like getting into trouble and you like being on the local news, avoid the cheap, low-end properties that these tenant buyers aren't going to buy the house. I like to stay in that median-priced sweet spot, $150,000 price range for us here in St. Louis.
Yeah.
So then, having said all that, you just asked a question. I answered it in a roundabout way.
Yes.
But like I want to get. I work with local mortgage brokers, and I work with a national tenant screening company. So the lady I use, she's actually in a small town in Illinois. She's amazing. She verifies all the paycheck stubs, the background checks. She actually calls the landlords to make sure that she calls the previous landlord. She makes
is that a resource you could share with us?
Oh yeah, she's great. ltservices.us.
Great.
For landlordtenantservices.us. ltservices.us. She's amazing. She'll verify that the paycheck stubs are not forged. That happens a lot.
Yeah.
They'll forge paycheck stubs. She will call the landlords, previous landlords, and verify that they're actually the owner of that property, right? And then she verifies tax returns and bank statements, and she actually goes to the bank and makes sure that they actually have an account with them. It's not fake. So it's insane. She's really good. Yeah. And she will tell you whether they're a good candidate or not for a lease option deal. And then a local mortgage broker will tell you, yeah, you know what, if they do this and this and this, they should have a realistic chance of getting a mortgage in 6 to 12 months. Can't promise it, but that's what you're looking for. You want to make sure they can afford the house and they have a realistic chance of getting a mortgage, and they got at least 3 to 5% to put down.
Great.
Yeah,
Great.
That's it.
So selling on lease options, what are the big benefits?
Benefits, lots of them, because when you're renting to a regular tenant, they don't care about, like, if the faucet leaks, they're not going to try to fix it. They're going to call you, right? And they're going to, hey, the faucet's leaking, the toilet's leaking, the garage door's broken, blah, blah, blah. You need to fix this. With a lease option, you get somebody that has more of a homeowner's mentality, okay? They're trying to buy that house. They put down 3 to 5% up front. They're hoping to get their credit fixed so they can buy the house. They're going to take care of those little things, right? If they're late on their rent or if they break the lease, they forfeit that option deposit money they put down up front. And they're taking better care of this house than a regular tenant would. And let me say this too. I've done this twice. I've used a lease option to find my own personal residence, my own dream house. We did this. I was a tenant buyer myself, right? And I found a house on my marketing. The seller, I was talking to him. I said, well, show me about the house. It's a beautiful house. It's like 5 bedrooms, 4,500 square foot on a cul-de-sac, backs to woods in a beautiful suburban neighborhood. And I said to the seller, I got great news for you, right? And by the way, keep in mind, when the market crashed, my credit crashed with it. Like, I was in really, really bad shape. And we lost our house to a short sale, and it was just a disaster. So this guy, I said, hey, I got great news for you. I got a tenant buyer right now for your house if you're willing to do a lease option. And he said, well, who's that? I said, me. I said, great. He never pulled my credit, okay? And I put down like $2,000 as my option deposit on this house. We lived in it for a couple years. It was a great house, but we thought, we don't want to buy this one, right? We want to have another house with more privacy, that it looks nicer. It's in a certain area. And so we did. When the option came to the end, we said, we don't want to buy it. And I actually helped him sell the house on the MLS, whatever. But we walked away from the deal. We didn't have to buy it, right? And I did forfeit my original option deposit money, which was $2,000. But we got to live in a gorgeous, incredible house. Yeah. I never looked at my background. So then we went to Europe for like 3 months, and then we lived in our RV for a while. And then we came back to St. Louis, and we were looking for another place to live. And I found our dream house. Like, we were super specific, Ross. Like, we were praying, God, we want a house that's 15 minutes from anywhere in this area. We want privacy, backs to woods. We want a separate place where I can have my office. And we wanted 3 acres. So we found this house on Zillow for sale by owner. And I first looked at it and I thought, we can't afford that house, or that's out of our league or whatever. And after about 3 months, we're having a hard time finding something exactly what we wanted. And I was like 6 months away from getting a mortgage, Ross, because like I was still 6-7 years away from those foreclosures and short sales. And also being self-employed, being a small business owner, I needed to get a jumbo loan. You've got to have a huge down payment, like 20-30% down. You need to have really stellar credit. And, as a small business owner, you're always trying to take as many deductions as you can to lower your income so that you don't have to pay much in taxes, right?
Exactly.
And so then it makes it hard to get a mortgage because your reported income is not as high as it needs to be to get the mortgage. So I texted this guy. I sent him a text. I say, hey, I love this house you have on Zillow. Looks like a nice house. You wouldn't be open to maybe leasing it to me for 6 to 12 months before I buy it, would you? And he texted back. It was a vacant house. It needed some work. And he texted back and said, yeah, why don't you go see it? He was in Florida. We met his friend. We looked at the house. Our jaws dropped when we saw it. Incredible backyard. If any of you guys seen my videos or stuff, like we've got 3 acres. It's completely private. We can't see any neighbors. We back to like a huge state park. And it's like 15 minutes from where we, from our church and from all the other stuff that we do in the city. It's like in St. Louis. It's not in the country, but it's like this little pocket of the country in the city. And then we have a separate little carriage house where my office is. We homeschool our 4 kids, so our kids do school over there.
That's great.
It's just an amazing house. It's incredible. In our front yard, we watch this beautiful waterfall, and we see tons of wild animals. Anyway, so we lease purchased this house for 3 years, and then we bought it shortly after that. And so I'm a huge fan of lease options, not only for investments, but if you want to buy your own dream house, sometimes lease options are the best way. I think as Grant Cardone said, like rent where you live and own where you invest. Now, some ways I agree with that, some ways not, but like there's a lot of people, Ross, listening to this, they're small business owners, they're entrepreneurs. And when you're a business owner, you take a lot of risks. And it's not too uncommon for you to have credit challenges because you take so many risks and your credit's not where you need to be. You make great money, but you don't have the 20% yet now to put down on the house. You need to have 2 years of tax returns that show your really high income so you can, quote unquote, afford this house. I mean, the banks don't care. You could have enough cash in the bank to actually pay for the house with cash, but a bank's not going to lend you the money if you don't meet their tight restrictions on credit score and debt to income. And so anyway, I love lease options because you can do it as investment properties. And you can also use them to buy your own dream house. I have a student that bought like a $2 million home on a lease option in Atlanta. So she makes great money.
It's a very good technique to know. And as someone who's done lease options on a lot of my investment properties, in my lease option contracts, I would have the tenants do any repairs that were under $5,000. So I wasn't getting any of the calls on the toilets, the trash, or anything like that. It was all on them. I wanted them to feel like they owned the property there. Joe, before we go any further, I want to announce the winner of our software.
Come on.
Find properties for pennies on the dollar. This is the most advanced piece of software available for real estate investors to find discounted properties, to find people to sell those properties to, and also all the contact info of the motivated sellers. So this episode's winner of the pre-MLS software is Chris Labsta. Chris,
all right,
we'll be reaching out to you. What Chris did, Chris went to exactlyhow.com. He threw his name in the hat. Now he's going to get all set up with a $3,000 piece of software. I'm so excited for you, Chris. Congratulations. Okay, Joe. So we talked a little bit about selling on lease option. Let's go over the 3 steps on buying on lease option.
Yeah. Cool.
So we were talking earlier in the show, and you said you got to find the seller, you got to contact the sellers and talk to them, and you got to make the offer. So tell me how you find the seller, people that would be willing to do a lease option.
Super easy. There's 2 main ways to find good sellers. Number 1, you network with other wholesalers that have dead leads and say, hey, listen, because a lot of those leads that they have, there's not enough equity in the house, right? And they threw them in the wood pile. They're just sitting there. If you don't have any money for marketing, number 1, go to your local RIAs, find other wholesalers and connected investors.
Go to connected investors, all day long.
what are you guys doing with those leads? You're not doing anything. You're just throwing away.
Yeah.
Why don't you give them to me? And if I do a lease option on them, I'll split the deal with you. Maybe 25 or 75, 25 or 50, 50 or whatever.
Whatever.
So find other wholesalers that are throwing their leads away because they don't have any equity or just only a little bit of equity, and follow up with their old leads and do lease options. So that's number one favorite way to find potential sellers. Excuse me. The other way is to go online, and I'm not talking about posting ads. I'm talking about contacting landlords and for sale by owners and asking them, hey, do you want to lease purchase your house? So I go to Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist, and Zillow, and I look for rentals and for sale by owners.
Hey, Joe, I just had to jump in real quick because the software that we just gave Chris shows every single landlord in your area with their contact information and the properties they own. So you can go on these different areas, but Chris is going to be able to log right in there, hit landlords, see all the landlords, and just get all their contact info. So that's huge.
The fastest way to a deal is picking up the phone. So you could take that list, Ross, that you have, pick up the phone and just start calling landlords, right?
Yeah.
That's the fastest way to a deal. The cool thing about this, going to Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist, and Zillow, is they're putting their phone numbers out there, right?
Yeah, here it is.
You can get their phone numbers, and you can text them. I call it the 1-2-3 punch. I like to send them a text. I like to send them an email. Sometimes the ad doesn't have their phone number in it. So I'll send them an email, and then I can send them a voicemail. And I use slide dial when I'm doing just a one-off voicemail. And I make my text messages and my voicemails really personal. Hey, I saw your house at 123 Main Street on Zillow. Looks like a nice house. I was just wondering, you wouldn't be interested in maybe leasing it for a little bit and then selling it, would you? If so, give me a call. That's it, right? I'm sending out these text messages and emails and voicemails to these homeowners, these landlords and for sale by owners, and I'm just asking them if they would consider maybe doing a lease purchase. Any one of them that raises their hands, I then get on the phone and I talk to them. The cool thing about this is you can get a $2 an hour VA to do all of that marketing for you. And it all looks like it comes from you, right? You get a VA, train them super easily to go out and find these rentals. I was just looking at Florida. There's 16,000 rental properties right now in Florida that you can get from Zillow. And guess what? Almost every one of those houses are vacant. You look at the pictures, there's nothing in them, right? These are vacant rental properties. So you can send
highly motivated landlords.
Now, some of them aren't going to be, most of them aren't going to be. But, you can send them a text. Now, sometimes it's a property manager that's listing the property, but that's still fine. I still contact the property manager. And instead, I'll say, hey, would your client maybe be open to selling this rental? And then the other thing I'll say here just real quick, this isn't free, but you can start sending letters or postcards to these rentals on Zillow. And you get a crazy high response rate with that. I've done that before, and I get really, really good response rates.
Well, great. Those are some great tips on how to find the sellers, and we kind of went over how to contact the sellers.
Yeah,
that little 1-2-3 punch.
Let me give you a couple tools that I use. Can I do
please.
That? Yeah. You can use Vumber or CallRail to send text messages for really cheap, and you can get different virtual phone numbers in whatever market that you're in that are local in that market. So Vumber with a V, or CallRail are two servers. And there's a lot of good CRMs that can do that as well too, right?
Yeah, great. No, that's some really good feedback. Let's talk about making the offer now. So on the phone with this landlord, he's tired of dealing with tenants. Sure, I'd love to sell this property. How do you structure the offer?
Well, first I'm going to ask him a lot of questions. Like, here's something that's really important. When you're talking to a seller, you're not selling them on anything. You're just making an offer. You're just asking questions, right? So once you're in this mode, when you're talking to them, when you feel like you're selling the lease option concept, or you have to convince them to do a lease option, you've already lost the game. It's over. But you need to just come at it with asking simple questions. Tell me about the house. If they say, I might be open to lease purchase, I say, well, let me do some numbers and I'll send you an offer. And I either email it to them, and I usually also send it in the physical mail to them, right? I want them to get something that they can hold their hands onto.
That's that implementation, people. Remember? Right away. Boom. In an email. A few days later, they get a letter. So
even if they say, no, I'm not interested, I'm still going to send them an offer in the mail. Ross, we did 58 deals last year. 54 of them came from the follow-up.
Wow.
54 deals came from the follow-up.
90%.
Only 4 from that initial call did we think we had a deal. Every single one of them, the other ones were like, no, I can't, not now. I'm not ready. I don't want to sell. I don't, blah, blah, blah. But because we followed up. So here's how you follow up. You create some simple offers. And I like to sometimes, depending on the temperature of the lead, I'll give them 3 different options. I'll give them a wholesaling cash offer. I'll give them a sandwich lease option offer. And I'll give them a lease option assignment offer. And each of them kind of go up in price a little bit. But here's the thing. I don't sell the lease option concept. When I send them my offer, attached to that is a cover letter and a simple, like, here are the different options of what we can do. And then that 1 page explains what a lease option is, explains the benefits, and then 3 pages of frequently asked questions and common answers, okay? And then I have a final page of just references to my mortgage broker, property manager, title company, or realtors, or whatever. And then the way I do it is I like to email that to them, but I also send it in the physical mail. And with my CRM, I can send it real quickly in the physical mail, first class, to the seller. So they actually get it in the mail, and then I just follow up with them after that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Would you, I don't know if this is proprietary, would you be willing to share a sample of one of those with us? Sure. Yeah, great.
Well, how about I give you parts of it?
Perfect.
Okay, this is what I'll do. I'll give you my 1-page contract. How about that?
Oh, cool.
I use a 1-page contract, and I'll give you my letter of intent, which gives 3
Perfect.
different options. What is proprietary is like the what a lease option is, the benefits, and the 3 pages of frequently asked questions.
Gotcha.
But I'll give you the 1-page contract and the 3-option letter of intent. Yeah, no problem.
Yeah. Really appreciate that. Great. So you made the offer. You're making them.
I got one better for you.
Please.
How about I send you the calculator that I use? It's a spreadsheet to come up with those 3 different offers.
Oh, perfect.
Okay.
Thank you, Joe. Yes. Yeah. Put in the comments right now. Thank you, Joe. This is great. Exactlyhow.com is where you can find all of this stuff. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. We'll be reaching out to you to make sure we have that collateral, and this goes for everyone to grab from. So great. You made the offers. What offer do you want them to take?
Great question. I want them to take the sandwich lease option offer, right? That's the one where I make the biggest profit. And there's 3 profit centers: cash now, and that's the money from the tenant buyer up front. The cash flow, couple, 300-400 a month, and then cash later, the big equity spread. That's the difference between what I'm buying it from the seller for and what I'm selling it to the tenant buyer for. So, on average, on an assignment, you're going to make $3, $4, $5 grand, maybe 10 grand. But on a sandwich lease option, you're going to make anywhere from 30 to 50 grand. I have testimonial after testimonial of students that does these sandwich lease options that are making $50,000+ on them.
Wow.
The way we do it, the most you put down on the property is $100, maybe $1,000, but that money it comes from the tenant buyer that you're putting in the home. So it's really no money out of your pocket.
Exactly. Yeah. It's free.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's a great tip right there. What if the tenant's getting there and it sounds like the tenant screening is important, because if you did a sandwich lease option, the tenants got in there and they just, destroyed the house, then you're on the hook really for that. Just like you would be if a normal tenant destroyed the house. And let me just ask one question. Is there any special insurance that you have when you're doing something like this?
Good point. So if I'm doing a sandwich lease option, the seller still has the mortgage. They still own the house. They need to make sure that their homeowner's insurance becomes a landlord policy, which is a simple phone call. They get a landlord policy. Sometimes I'll go in and I'll buy an extended home warranty, which covers the major appliances. Mm-hmm. But in my agreement with the seller, my A to B contract with the seller says I'm only responsible for repairs under $500 a month. Okay. And if, that's a point of negotiating.
Yeah.
They may say, like, I don't like that. Then I might do $1,000 a month. But then guess what? I transfer that responsibility to the tenant buyer. So when I sign my contract with the tenant buyer, I'm making them responsible for all the repairs under $500.
Gotcha.
Now, worst case, if the air conditioning goes out and it's a $3,000 repair, I'll call the seller up and I say, hey, listen, I got this extended home warranty, but we're going to try to get the HVAC fixed with this. But if not, we'll pay the first $500. You're going to have to pay the money above that.
Here's what's great, people. With this, you have options.
Yes.
When else can you ever call someone up and say, hey, I need you to pay this? Like, this is great. You're putting yourself in the right position to where you actually have options, other people you can pull from, other people that care. The tenant that you're leasing to cares because they want to buy it. The homeowner, they care because they own it and you care because you want to make sure everything goes smooth. So you have 3 different parties that care, as long as you screen the tenants well. And that's where I think a lot of people mess up. I've been there before. I've had properties sit empty for too long, and I've just thrown people in there, and then it just never worked out. So
that's totally been there, done that. Like I was at this point, it was a downward spiral. I was hemorrhaging cash. I just took the first person that could fog a mirror that had $5,000 to put down. Yeah. And then like, they were horrible. And then I go 3 months, no rent before I finally can evict them.
How long ago was this though, Joe?
This was in 2008 and 9.
Let me just point out, Facebook Marketplace wasn't there. Maybe Craigslist was kind of like, all of this tech now didn't exist for you to be able to advertise your properties and get them out to those people. So that's, the landscape has really changed, and
it's way easier now. Oh, you're so right.
Basically just setting up the infrastructure to handle the influx of calls is the thing that an engineer like Joe, someone that wants to be able to have this fantastic life and still travel, because you can't take those calls when you're in a different time zone,
Here's one cool thing too that I need to mention.
Yeah, please.
On a sandwich lease option, with my A to B contract with the seller, I have a way to get out of the deal if it goes bad. Okay. If it turns out to be a lemon of a deal, like a really bad deal, I can give the seller a 60-day written notice and I can get out of that contract, right? Could you do that with a bank? No. If you go buy a house with a bank loan, do you think you can go to the bank 6 months later and say, you know what, I don't want this house anymore? Can you just take it back?
No,
you can't do that. They may take it back, but it's going to ruin your credit for 7 years, right? So with a lease option, it just gets you, it's better. It's more risk averse, right?
Yeah.
Because you can get out of a deal if it really gets bad.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Joe, this has been very, very enlightening. We were only going to cover one side of lease options here, but I figured, ladies and gentlemen, while I had, the master on the line here, I wanted to touch base on all these different things. And Joe has a free gift here. You said you were outside of what you just talked about giving away. You were also going to give away your book, Wholesaling Lease Options.
Yes.
So there you go.
I thought I had one laying around here. I don't. I got a real book.
They sell so fast, Joe. You can't even keep them in your home office.
Oh, I wish I had one. I'm sorry, but it's a real book. It's called Wholesaling Lease Options. It's not very big. You can read it in a few 3 hours, but it's chock full of all killer, no filler. That's what I like to, all Great. Killer, no filler, and it just teaches you how to flip these lease options in a real fast, easy way. Can I give them the link to get the book if they want?
Yeah, it's going to be on exactlyhow.com, but you're more than welcome to let them know in case they're
just go there. Just go there.
Yeah, sounds good. Joe, a quick question here. What do you think your life would be like if you never discovered real estate investing and you were still an engineer or
boy, I wouldn't be living in the home of my dreams, looking out over 1,000 acres of woods and rolling hills. I would be stuck in my corporate cubicle job. I called it
cubicle.
And I would be trying to climb some corporate middle management ladder. Like I would get so depressed when I was working, like looking at the middle managers, and like you got these 1 or 2 guys at the top and you got all of these middle managers and then you got these thousands of people below. Right. And I thought, man, I had no aspirations to be a middle manager. Like these guys work harder than anybody else. They're the first ones in there. They're the last ones to leave. They have all the pressure and the stress. If you look at the hourly rate that they got, it wasn't much more than I was making. If they're lucky, I mean, maybe they get 3 to 3 weeks of vacation a year. So I thought, I just don't ever want that. So if it wasn't for real estate and God's help, like I'd still be stuck in a corporate job. I would probably be pretty miserable, to be honest. Yeah. I might be in a cubicle with taller walls, right? But it would still be a cubicle. And I would be managing a bunch of other ungrateful people that didn't want to be there. Yeah.
All right. So getting into real estate, what's interesting when you listen to Joe's response here, think earlier, he said he went through a tough time. He's massive implementation. He jumped in the game. He started making it happen. The market turned. Who the heck saw it coming? he learned so much as he swam out of the mess there that he didn't let anything stop him. He was able to buy the home of his dreams even before his credit was ready, because he learns and he implements. So Joe, it's really inspiring for everyone who's on the line here. And if you don't see, the next 5 or 10 years of your life looking promising, you might want to take a note from Joe here and just start really implementing. And the fact that you're on this call shows that you're someone who is open to new ideas. Cool. Joe, do we have a little bit of time to do the rapid fire section of this?
Of course.
Okay. All right. I'm just going to ask you some questions. First thing that comes to your mind, on a scale of 1 to 10, how strict were your parents?
8.
Wow. Get up early or stay up late?
Both.
How many hours of sleep do you get?
6 to 7.
Favorite or?
I should get more.
Favorite or most recent book that you read?
The Blessed Life by a guy named Robert Morris. It's about generous living, being generous.
We'll make sure to have a link to that as well. Thanks for sharing. Yeah. If you could be any superhero, who would it be? Superman.
Because, there's a real funny video on YouTube. Like, this whole thing a couple years ago of Superman and Batman fighting, and
yeah.
I'll send you this link because it was super funny, but nobody can beat up Superman, right?
There you go. Here,
I'll send you that link.
Yeah, please do, man. Maybe we'll throw it in the blog on the Exactly How page for you guys. Something everyone should do less of.
Complaining.
Something everyone should do more of.
Being grateful, serious, like in all seriousness. You just need to wake up every morning and say, thank you, God, for what I have. Things may be bad right now, but it could be a whole lot worse, right? It could be. So having a grateful attitude changes everything. Just being thankful.
Yeah. Will people live on Mars in your lifetime?
No. There's a great book, by the way, wasn't it? Did you read that book?
I did not.
What was it called? The book that was just out about Mars?
I've just been following Elon Musk and everything he's doing, going out to Mars. He'll be selling one-way tickets to Mars. So
if anybody does it, it would be him.
Yeah. Bitcoin, bang or bust?
I used to think bust, but I have so many friends, Ross, that are into it now. I'm like, really? Like, okay. And so I think it's probably bang, but I'm not investing in it yet.
I got a handful of them sitting around, planning on giving my kids. Joe, thank you so very much for coming on. And for everyone who is still here, you made it to the end of the show. Most people don't finish what they start. You're special. You're an action taker. So if you got any value out of this show, I didn't want to ask you at the beginning of the show because you didn't know what you were going to learn. But now that you made it through the whole show, you obviously like what we're doing here. If you can go ahead and tag someone, at least leave a comment. Right? Let us know what you liked. Let us know what you learned. We spend a lot of time doing these shows, bringing this high quality, real, raw content to you. And all we ask in return is that you engage with us in some way. So thanks again for being on the show. We have some great shows coming up. I mean, we've done shows on how to build skyscrapers, how to build hotels, exactly how to pretty much anything in the real estate space, the best diet for real estate investors, how to use Facebook and Google as a real estate investor. I mean, when you go through the archive at exactlyhow.com, there's so much great stuff there. And just like Joe gave away some great gifts, everyone's just giving so much. And I'm so grateful for that. Thanks again, Joe. So again, until the next episode, I'll see you on the inside. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Ross.
The Connected Investors app connects you with investors, notifies you of available properties, helps locate cash buyers, and secure private funding to close deals. Set up in seconds to become a member of the Connected Investors social network. Now you can scroll through your main feed to find cash buyers, see investment properties not available to the general public, and network with investors by adding your own comments to a thread to keep the conversation going. The Control Center is your connection to add properties to sell, start new discussions, connect with local investors, and even find private funding. The Notifications tab will keep you alerted to new investment properties and offers. You'll also find new friend requests to connect directly with the community to build your network. From the property marketplace, you'll be able to find, favorite, and make offers on investment properties. Download Connected Investors today to find, figure, fund, and flip investment properties on the go.